Hello, everybody. We'll get started here shortly. Thank you for joining. We'll give people a couple minutes to kind of roll in, and then we will get started. All right, we'll give it another couple moments here, and then we will get started. Thank you guys for joining. If you're watching on YouTube, some of the content on the screen here, top right-hand channel or top right-hand QR code is just the QR code for the YouTube channel in which we post all these lunch and learns. So if you're watching on YouTube, you're probably already there. On the bottom right, we have the Decisions Solutions Marketplace. So that's going to be solutions and many built-out apps that you can utilize in your projects, modules, things along those lines. We also have kind of bounce around here a little bit. Decisions.com. I can't spell the name of my own company. Okay. We also have some events coming up. So we do have, let's see if we can just do. We've also got webinars coming up. We have one on July 11th, which is 2 days from now, on what you should know about rules engines. We have Submerse events coming up in Denver, Colorado, and we have another webinar on July 31st. So a webinar basically every 2 weeks or so. Webinar basically every 2 weeks or so, and then we have Submerse events, which are free events. You just got to get yourself to them. But they are free events. We have a introductory class and we have an advanced class in this kind of a more developed one. So that's a good question, BT. Using advanced data grid, is there a way to start the form and have all grouped items to be collapsed? Let's look. Let me do some research on the sidelines here. Thank you for the question, man. So I do see a feature request for that in our system. Um, I do see a feature request for that. Let me see if that has gotten any kind of follow up. That was from earlier this year. Let's see if we can find anything else on that information. Yeah, it's still looking like it's in that status. Um, as it currently sits, I can take a quick look at it, but if people on our end have already looked at it, we'll go and make this full screen. I don't think so. And to be, just transparent, VC, I'm sure you have done all the things I'm going to do, but let's just do a quick one really fast here to see if I am missing something, or at least maybe see if that is a data grid. Advanced. We'll just do an account one real quick. Cool. Thank you, Jared. All right, man. Let's take a quick look here and see what we can do here. I'm going to test two places, and again, I'm sure I know you've probably already done this, but we're just kind of learning, lunching, and learning together here. Hope that's the right one. I could have just picked the wrong one. Cool, 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 cool. All right, so what I want to do is something along these lines. I've not used this in a little bit here. Where's the VT? Where's that collapsible icon? Or will it not show because I don't have enough stuff in here? Like where do you want it to collapse at? For all grouped items. Oh, items gotta be grouped, I guess, huh? Let's take a look here. I don't know how I did this. Oh, this is an older. That's why I picked the wrong form, huh? What to say? Pick or create form. Nice. Hopefully I just called it form one. Nice. Okay. So if the only field I know we have is like user type or something, group it, save it, save, entity results, edit report and group on some field. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Didn't think about that. All right. So you want these collapsed by default is my guess here. Let's take a look, man. Grid viewer, expand icon, group header icon button. This is my initial guess. And again, I looked on our end and we do have a feature request for that. So there, and it said the exact wording we have on our end is like it doesn't do it natively. So I'm kind of looking for alternative solutions for you. And for everyone else who's just joining, just so you kind of know where we're at. The ask was within a advanced data grid, is there a way to set these up to be collapsed by default? So when you run an advanced data grid, it's not all expanded, everything is collapsed. Again, I looked on our end. We do have a feature request from March for this same ask, and I didn't see any follow-up on that. My initial guess would be something along the lines of CSS, but I'm not super familiar with. Not super familiar. I see the chat's kind of going crazy here. JavaScript control would not really work. It's hard to check when the report is rendered. JavaScript control would not really work. It's hard to check when a report is rendered. Edit report. Let me look one more place here and see if I can find anything like that. Fully compressed or to compress all. Yeah, so on our end, it's still in the feature request status, and just again being fully transparent. I think if you've already kind of gone through that JavaScript and the understanding that it would not work, I do not have a good solution for you on that one, unfortunately. Um, let's see here. What I'll do is I'll ask some of the people that work on the other side of the line of like the PS side and see if they know anything. Um, but it'll be one of those things I'll have to email follow back up with you just because it's not something that I can come into right now, how to set that up by default. Uh, let's see here. So that's just the icon. Yeah, so I guess you're right because all I'm looking at with CSS is it's not going to be the actual animations and the actual movement on the thing. It's just going to be the visual representation of the thing. So even in the CSS, I would just be able to change the image for that click or the drop down. I wouldn't be able to actually set the default without going through, like you said, JavaScript. But even then, I've done it on a page though, but it's not stable with JavaScript. Okay. Yeah, let me follow up with you. I'll do some research. I'll talk to the people that kind of worked through that ticket, because like I said, we did get a ticket on this exact concept back in March of this year, so a couple months ago, and I'll see if they came into any kind of conclusion that's maybe not posted in the ticket or something like that. I'll follow up with those people and I'll reach back out to you. I'll send you an email here shortly, or I guess after the session while we're kind of bouncing. But for now, anybody else have any other types of questions? And again, apologies, I couldn't land on a resolution there for you. Um, Anybody else have any questions on the side of that as well? Now we've got a couple more people joined in. And the ask was to, by default, have these be collapsed, but I am not finding a system for that. And I'm assuming we've already are poked all the way through all of these. Like I said, feel free if you have a question, put it in the chat. I know I'm kind of just parsing through here. None of this will do it. I'm out of ideas on that one. Sorry, VT. Anybody else? What other questions we got? I know we got some people in here. We can either do that or we can do some exploring on my end. If people have questions about stuff or you just want to learn, hey, we're doing this, I can maybe do some exploring and building live, or we can just kind of poke around at some stuff that I thought has been interesting lately. So, any other questions for now? Oh, we got some nice, some more stuff popping up in the Q&A. Yeah, if you VT, I'll put my email in the chat for you, man. Robert.Grauer@decisions.com. Perfect, man. Yeah, that'd be great, man. Like I said, I'll follow up with the people that worked on that. Decisions does a lot. It seems to, correct me if I'm wrong, to act as a database ETL tool, programming language, biz tool, automation tool, and 4 other things. What do you think Decisions is best at, and what should we be using it for? Yeah, I like that question a lot, man. I really do. Kind of an open-ended, uh, bigger view. My perspective, and I'll admit that I have probably lesser knowledge than some other folks here. Um, but in my opinion, the best decisions, in my opinion, the best is a rules engine, running rules and parsing data, and getting out data that you want. So taking in large sets of data and parsing it out. Um, I'll even unmute some of y'all if y'all want. Like this is kind of, I guess, conversational piece here. I'll talk anybody like, yeah. So my opinion is the the best strength of the decisions engine, in my opinion, is taking in large sets of data, parsing it through a rules engine that you can get out the data you want, and then manipulating that data. Um, yes, automation, programming languages, I guess it's some extension of the database prompt that you put in there. But in my opinion, the decisions is the best at the rules engine. That's like our strength. If anybody, let's see, I don't know if Jeremy is. Jeremy, in your opinion, what is decisions the best at, and what should we be using it for? If you're in here still, I guess either Jeremy.
Uh, I don't know if there's a good, I don't know if I necessarily have anything
Yeah.
like best at, I guess. You know, even just like thinking about our training projects in general, like they cover a pretty wide variety of like different ways that it could be used. So I think in a lot of cases, and obviously in some cases it gets more and more challenging, or people need additional features to do stuff that they want to do, like you were just talking about, the feature for having those things automatically collapsible or whatever. But I think, yeah, I just think there's a wide variety, and there's a reason that our training is organized into two sections. One section for the UI based section where you focus on a lot on dashboards and a lot on forms and stuff like that. And then a second one that's more rule based that does a lot with the API connections and, just kind of running rules and rule sets and things like that to have everything happen mostly in the back end, without seeing all that extra stuff. So there's just such a variety of things. And, not personally having a lot of direct connection with, customer projects, since my focus is more just on the training stuff. Um, I don't know if there really is, there may, I guess, be an answer, but I don't really know
Yeah, I
what
think
the
that's
necessarily best thing is because there's just such a variety.
yeah. And I think the rules engine, like Jeremy said, breaking it into rules engine and UI is two great categories to focus on, and that's how we've chosen to kind of align our training sprints or our training challenges, our training projects, however you want to word it. We've kind of aligned them into those two categorical groupings. So yeah, being able to report on data, I think, is also a strength. I noticed that a lot of times when we do proof of concepts for customers or potential clients, a lot of it's built around, okay, how can we see this data in a way that's effective for our business? And how can we see this data and use this data in other ways? So data reporting, and again, this is kind of a simplified view of it, but also just, being able to parse through um, data's rules. So combined rule sets, so you can run a parent rule set and then uh, child rule sets beneath that that do various things. So data will come in like for this particular project, we have this larger structure for an asset tag. It is a data structure that has data members underneath it that are related to tagging assets within an organization, and it can send through the process and then add and update and edit these tags. So if it's a domestic market, we look at what state these things come from, right? And then if it does those things, we can go in and apply tags or apply action so that data can then later be used. So if it's consumable, and again, these are all underneath that structure. So my initial gut reaction was, rules engine. But I think reporting is also good too. And and to this point, when shouldn't we be using decisions? Dude, I love these questions. It's just uh, existential stuff. When shouldn't we be using decisions?
I think that, I mean, not to take the cop out answer, but
No,
I think
good.
in a similar vein, right, that there's definitely like a lot that you could use the decisions for. And I think there's maybe not every case, but there's definitely a lot of cases where people could definitely do more with decisions than they're already using. But maybe, if you're going from one platform to another, you kind of already have your system. So it doesn't make sense to rewrite the wheel if you could just use decisions to call your other systems that are already running things. Um, whereas other cases where someone's, just kind of starting up, or they want to use decisions to kind of get rid of multiple other platforms and things that they're utilizing. I think decisions, because it has quite a variety of things, they can do that as well. Um, but I think in like a lot of cases, it's like, oh, you already have everything on an external database. Well, there's no need to use decisions then to, copy all of that stuff and make a new database if you can just call that database externally. So if you have things, you don't necessarily need to fully rewrite the or remake the wheel or whatever, and you know start from scratch if you kind of already have it somewhere else. Somewhere else.
Yeah,
Instead you can kind of use
right.
decisions to pull from those things, but you have the ability in a lot of cases to completely redo that if you'd like as
Yeah, and
well. But I
my
think in
initial,
most cases you wouldn't.
yeah, the inverse of tech debt, like with technical debt, like you're rushing a project over getting it right, and then you end up having to pay for it later on. But there's, on that in that world, there's a spectrum. There's also the other side that taking the time, energy, intellectual horsepower to build out, like Jeremy was saying, a huge process when you already have a functioning one that, in order to save yourself 5 minutes a week, it takes you 4 hours to write the workaround. At what point does that pay itself off multiple years? And yes, there is something to be said for knowing that it's going to work and factoring out user error and all that stuff. And this is kind of a nuanced existential conversation, but um, in my opinion, if I was running a small business and I was going to implement decisions, I would implement decisions for the rule engine and for reporting the data back to me in a way that is easy for me or someone who works for me to read and not have to deep dive a huge spreadsheet and run these numbers and figure out what cell, what values, and what is in what. But there are things that I wouldn't implement it for if it was just like a small task. Like, okay, I know that every so often I have to order, you know, boxes or something to ship stuff in. If I'm only doing that once a quarter and it takes me 5 minutes, like I'm not going to spend multiple hours uh, drawing it out. It is kind of hard to say without um, having insight on that. But I love these questions. This is probably my favorite lunch and learn ever host. It's just nice conversational pieces. But yeah, I would say like thinking about I know the tech debt is the inverse of it, but the inverse of tech debt where you spend too much time building a solution when, the actual manual labor, the non-automated version, it wouldn't pay itself off. So it's just debt in the wrong direction would be my initial initial thought on it. But yeah, that's good, man. I should ask that to our like internal channel and see what people say, and then have more insight. That's a good question, man. It really is. Um, see what else we got. Thank you. No, thank you. This is sick. Or I guess sick isn't very. This is nice. This is fun. Um, yeah. I don't know. Let's see. So let's go
Say
with,
something that we use a lot for is process automation, trying to get some of the systems that or things that we've been doing manually or on paper and get
let's go.
them into a digital format
So,
and trying to make things easier for our offices to process information and store information that they may have been using an Excel spreadsheet in the past.
cool. And so, Jeremy McNeil, thank you for speaking in. What downsides have you seen from your and for your insight? I think it's Alexander, right? Yeah, Jeremy's actually not a employee; he's a customer, so he's not speaking from a decision standpoint. So we can get some customer input on there. Um, what 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 have you found is better to not go through decisions, or like the inverse of his question, where when would you not use try to implement automation to get some of those paper and pencil processes off paper and pencil and into the digital realm,
It
Mr.
just depends on some of the one system. Well, we already, one thing that we were looking at was a project management for one of our offices, but another office already had something already well functioning. It just needed to add a few extra pieces to add in this other thing. So that was one thing we decided, well, let's just flesh out of this other system we already have than building something from the ground up in decisions. So kind of we already touched on that. And then another question I ask for kind of when we're debating on whether to use decisions or not is like, because we're a global organization. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of times we need our systems fully translated into other languages. And
Yeah.
that's one downside I see in decisions is I can't translate 100%
Correct. It's
of
not
the
super clean.
interface.
Yeah,
So that's
exactly.
where I'm like, okay, if you need this system to be 100% translated into another language, decisions is not our platform because I can only get us maybe 85% of the way there.
Yeah.
But
And
other
we
than
and
that, I like using decisions for a lot of what we do, especially for the process automation and the like assignments and task tracking is very useful.
thanks, man. Yeah, and like he said, that like the language we do have a just for your own knowledge, he is absolutely 100% correct that it is not a full seamless great process, but we do have some language translation stuff. You can import languages and decisions, but like he said, it's probably closer 80-70% of a translation, and it's not super clean and seamless. It's kind of, the equivalent of uh, Google Translate back and forth a couple times, you end up losing some uh the correct wording, and it just doesn't translate everything on the screen because it might not just in that language file. I think it's a language file if I remember correctly. Um, it doesn't have everything you would need.
Yeah, our main thing is less of because we have a department that is dedicated to translating since we are a global organization. We get things translated into our main five languages all the time. It's more of there's just some components within the interface that just are not capable of being translated.
Yeah.
There's several form components and page components that just you can't translate yet. And I know
Yeah.
I put in a feature request for some of those, and this one of the version 8.20 it came out and has a couple of them in there where they've added the functionality for translation on a few components, but
Yeah.
there's
It's
still,
just
I think, a long way to go.
certainly. Yeah, I would 100% agree with you. Yeah, I've messed with this a little bit, but I would definitely agree with you. And I've seen some of those feature requests and tickets come in for more. Um, languages. I'm trying to figure out what type of file this is because it's not just you can't just click in and select a language. I'm trying to figure out what the formatting
You
for.
have to, it's all manual setup. You set up a language
Yeah.
and then which then allows you to then set a translation for the string to be
Oh,
translated.
okay. I thought for some reason I thought it was like a certain type of file extension that would do.
No, there is not a
Ouch.
file. It's
Yeah. So that.
fully, and there's no, you have to build the process for even importing the
Yeah.
translated strings. If you want to do it in a batch,
Yeah.
you have to build your own flow to import that information. There's
Wow.
no, at least when we started, I don't think there still is. There's not just a standard flow for importing an Excel spreadsheet of the
Languages.
translated text. You have to build
Yeah.
that out yourself.
Wow. Languages export as DEC objects. That's export importing import. Yeah, so even this I think is languages export. I'm trying to figure out how they import. They export as a deck object. Does not support exporting as a CSV or Excel. Can we import as a CSV or Excel these days? Things might have changed on that front, but I'm not seeing it. Yeah, even here you're seeing translate string. Okay, here you go. A new string translation window enters to translate. Yeah, see, even like you can do it somewhat manual. It's still manual, but you are right about the
Yeah,
CSV.
it's one by
Yeah,
one. When we first started, I
it's
think they
brutal.
said like you could give like your translators access to that report
Hmm.
to then go one by one and translate that, but that doesn't really fit our best practice where our translators, we give them a spreadsheet of the strings and then they
Yeah.
translate into their language and then we re-import that into the system to give decisions the translated string for the English. Or in some cases, I've actually even gone backwards where I've inserted the Spanish string because I need to go backwards and translate from Spanish back into
To
English.
English. Yeah. That's still cool. Still a cool use case. Yeah, I need to spend more time with the language thing. I've done it one time, but I haven't done it enough, and I did not know it was that much of a manual task. So yeah, if you're doing like perfect example, when to not use it, you know, if you're doing big translations, you might be able to find an alternative resource and then port that data in a more seamless way rather than using the decisions translator. You could use some type of, you know, API call or something along those lines. To reference, you know, the translation process, rather than trying to use this native translator. Um, but again, I'm just not, I can barely speak English, so I'm not the best uh, with this kind of stuff. Cool. I did see VT. Unfortunately, it's just like it's like a company policy thing. Like sharing your screen. Unfortunately, there is not a way. I can see if it's in my inbox and I can share it. If you inboxed it to me, I can look at my Outlook, but I cannot let you share your screen. Unfortunately, let's see if I can just pull this over. Oh, I see it. Let's see it. Let's see. Let's look, man. Why not? All right. Let's see here. Please review. So this is for the page, or this is for, and I have you unmuted, VT, if you wanted to speak this into existence. This is the page that you were able to get it to work
Yeah,
on
so
page. Yeah, I see it up there.
when you reload it, it's gonna be collapsed. And basically, this is like a bunch of CSS and JavaScript on the report. So, for example, if you click that pencil, it will edit the grouping name. It
Nice.
will be like a pop-up. If you click that trash, it will delete all items in that group. If you want to add item, it will add. It will be like a call to decisions flow that will allow you to add item to this group and then refresh report.
Very cool, man. Yeah, I'll definitely follow up with the people that submitted that FR or feature request back in March and maybe talk with the support techs. I see them over there, so they're in here today. Maybe they might have some insight, and I'll email you back if they found some workaround that's outside of something that we would publicly publish on our website or in documentation. But for now, again, I think, you know, and I'm sure you know this too, but I think you have a better grasp on a lot of this stuff than I do. But I have, you know, access to some resources, some brains in here that you don't have direct access to anymore. So I'll ask some of those folks, man. I'll ask them for you. Cool.
And for the translate, if you can rely on Google Translate, you can just add Google widget and kind of hide it. And then as a parameter, you can input the type of language and it will translate the whole page.
When you say widget, you mean like a module or an actual?
Google Translate has kind of like a JavaScript widget that you can add to the page. And when the page loads, it will translate the whole page.
Something like that. So
Kind of like that. I do remember I've used it once, but it's just if you can rely on that, because if you have some specific
right. I think
language, yeah.
he was saying they have translators that will and I'll let you speak out, Jeremy. I saw you unmuted. Go ahead.
Yeah, and we do have some specific phrases that have to be translated a certain way just so that they retain the correct context.
Yeah.
So yeah, that would be useful, but there are just various certain terms that have to be translated a certain way into that language, so that limits what we can do for that kind of thing.
Cool. Isn't insightful. Yeah, I need to dial down into the JavaScript world. I need to spend some time in there because it seems like I know that VT Vitali, you've advised that to other customers, and it probably is a really big blind spot in my understanding of decisions, considering the strengths in which um, all of that animation JavaScript stuff is on there. And for Alexander or anybody, not any Alexander, you're watching on YouTube later. I'm not, but this always helps me a little. This helped me figure it out the differences here. When we talk about JavaScript and CSS, like um, so our tool decisions is an HTML based tool. CSS is going to be the skin that fits on top of it, and JavaScript is the action. So there's one GIF one here that I actually do like. Where is it at? But it's basically anything that implies action. So with JavaScript, that's why we're talking about the collapsible. Like the CSS would change the image of the icon, but JavaScript would control how the actual thing acts here. Let's see if I can find the one that I've used in the past here. Um, Something like this, right? This isn't the one. This is the one that I've done right here. This is the one. Yeah, HTML is going to be the structure, CSS is the appearance, and JavaScript is going to be the action. So I do need to learn more about the JavaScript world for sure. Here's another example, right? This almost looks like decisions at times. Um, this almost looks like decisions. You have a HTML, a generic form. CSS changes the styling of it, which you use as cascading style sheets, and then JavaScript changes how things actually interact for anyone who's watching later. Cool. Tell you what, man. Uh, anything else? Anything else you guys would like to talk about, or any points you'd like to make, or conversational pieces? I think everybody's unmuted, so.
We had one more question in the
Oh,
Q&A
I'm
about
sorry.
how to
I'm sorry.
write Python in decisions.
Ooh,
I don't
man.
know if I have the best. I'm definitely not an expert, but we do have documentation about the
Yeah.
module. So there
Mhm.
actually is the Python module you can
Module.
just
Yeah.
download
Yeah.
that allows you to do a lot of stuff in Python within decisions. So I just posted the link in the chat.
Yeah.
But
So we,
basically that's the basics of it. And if you need further information, then you'll probably get more help from support.
there you go, Jeremy. Thank you, man. Thank you for finding that. Can you show an example of how to write Python decisions? I'll give you like, and Jeremy sent some documentation out. I'll kind of give you just at least getting to that module. And like I said, I can't really write a script for you, but again, just another blind spot in the many blind spots that I have. So let's see here. This place. Trying to remember because I've been playing around in version 9 so much that I don't really remember the quickest way to get to it. My apps, here it is. App Store modules. So there's two ways to get to it. You can get to it through settings. The way that I always remember to get to the modules is like I just showed you, my apps, and then on the top you'll have App Store. There is a place in settings you can get to it too, but it'll show you that in the documentation. But for now, rather than just backtracking, we do have a Python module under modules. We're going alphabetical here, I think. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Python. Did it already have installed? Oh, I already had installed. So I guess I've done this in previous. But yeah, so we have this Python module. You can install it. You just click on it, click install. And again, storage of Python scripts. So let's take a look on this side too. Marketplace, something like that. Nope, I don't have any information on it on here. Um, but yeah, so once you go through here, it will allow you, and again, I think VT could probably speak to this a little bit better than I can, but it will allow you to utilize Python steps in your flows, as well as, let's take a look back at the documentation. Under integrations, Python script, add a script project. So it's under integrations, Python scripts. So we'll go back over here, integrations, Python script projects, right click, and you should be able to add it there somewhere. Oh, there it is. I just saw it. Add script project. And you can run through that process. But again, um, here's an example. So we add this script, save, and you also get flow steps as well. So those flow steps will be under integration, all integrations in Python. So again, back to decisions over here somewhere. I got too many tabs open. Bad habit. Integrations, Python, and you can execute a Python script and run it that way as well. But again, I don't have a lot of insight on the Python world. It's just another one of the many blind spots I have, unfortunately.
I just wanted to mention that
Sure.
with version 9, I think there's an option to just write your steps in C# and just drop it into the project. Versus in version 8, you would have to have access to actual server, which was not convenient in most of the companies because developers typically do not have access to the actual server. And now I think you can just compile your DLL and just drop it into the project in version 9. I think I've seen that somewhere.
I don't think I have it.
It should be in documentation. So if you search for SDK on version 9, yep. Not Python, the SDK.
Oh man.
Just say how to.
That's awesome. C# is my specialty, someone said in the chat. So, yeah, can okay.
Yeah.
Oh, we're walking through.
In SDK, there should be an article how to actually edit to the project. And into the product.
Yeah, feel free to drive me because I'm kind of out of my depth here.
I bet I've seen that somewhere. It's not in the in here, but I bet I seen on the project level somewhere in version 9.
On the project level. Oh, on the project level, huh?
Manage maybe.
There's some Python usage under scripting.
What's in the configuration?
SDK extensions.
SDK, yep, that's it. So you can just drop DLL file here, and instead of just going like all time going into the server and putting the files into specific folders, you can just drop files here and save it. And if it doesn't need refresh of the services, that should be there automatically, your steps. So that's cool.
That's cool. So when we add it to here, it'll show up in the step toolbox under some type of integration.
Yeah, if you add your steps and then compile DLL, just drop it here and it show up in toolbox. I mean, if you create like flow steps.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, so it is project level, like you said, it's in version 9. I don't know which version you're working in there, Alexander, but in version 9, like I said, it's under manage configuration SDK extensions.
Basically, if you want to kind of work around, you can just create a flow, and I bet that's what it's doing. It's just a flow that gets your file and then drops it in the correct folder. The downside of the flow, then you probably will need to restart services because you're not going to be able to see your steps.
You said you'd have to restart your service
In version 8, yes. I'm
in
not sure
version 8.
about, yeah.
Yeah, so
In most cases. In some cases, they show up. It depends on the libraries that you use.
yeah, so if you're in version 8, restarting your service it depends on how you have it stored, but um, using something like this is probably your best bet. Or services. I think this is actually it. Yeah, this is it. Apologies, I went to the wrong place. But you can find decisions and restart your decisions server if you're storing it locally. But it depends on how you're doing it. Oh, so I got another question. And again, VT or Jeremy, either Jeremy, anybody, feel free. The question says, is it because decisions is built in C sharp? And to clarify, I'm asking, can you make new steps in C sharp because decisions is built in it? Again, I'm not too sure.
Yep. Yeah. So
Okay.
backend built on C Sharp .NET Core right now. And if you want to extend the system functionality, you will need to build steps and stuff in C Sharp.
Hopefully that answered that bit. Yeah, and if you want more information about this SDK, again, I would go into documentation. Make sure that you can type in documentation.decisions.com. Make sure you're on the version that you are utilizing, and then just searching for something along those lines. Creating custom flows, text merge, stuff like that. And again, here's some of the changes from version 8 to version 9. But this is the screen we were just on: settings, configuration, SDK. Upload it there. But that might be helpful. Yes, thank you. No, thank you. This was one of the better lunch and learns I've ever hosted. So I appreciate it. This was fun. It was nice to just kind of keep it conversational. I'm learning. I haven't lunched yet, but I am learning. So any other final questions here before we kind of close them out? I'm appreciative of everyone's insight. But we're good. Go once.
Also, I just wanted to say about the
Sure.
SDK is that decisions on the AWS services, it does not allow you to run stuff without credentials, but in AWS world, for example, if your decisions is installed on the EC2 instance, you can just use a couple lines of code and create some stuff that your AWS services and methods that you use will run without any credentials, because the last resort of AWS credentials is the using the permissions of that EC2 instance that it is installed on. So that's kind of cool. So you don't have to expose credentials inside of decisions.
There you go. And this will be on YouTube too here shortly in like an hour. So if you, Alexander, if you want to listen to that follow up, you hear the big commotion of people walking by me. Yeah, it'll be on YouTube, so you can maybe listen back or follow through some of this. 'Cause I know we kind of covered a ton of space, but for now, I'll go ahead and close it out. I'm appreciative that all y'all joined. I will see y'all tomorrow or the next day. Thank you guys very much. Enjoy the rest of y'all's day.